Welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the Tafsir, the exegesis of Surah Al-Qasas. We're going to really focus in on the powerful stories surrounding verse 38 and what it all means. Our main source for this entire explainer is a really insightful work by Ayatollah Javadi Amoli. We're going to use it to methodically break down the complex and honestly fascinating theological arguments that he lays out in his analysis.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 6 key sections, starting with the verse itself and its context, and then we're going to journey all the way to some really profound metaphysical ideas at the end.
Okay, first things first. Let's lay the groundwork by looking at the foundational Qur'anic verses that sit at the absolute heart of this whole analysis.
So these verses from Surah Al-Qasas, they really set the stage for everything. It kicks off with Pharaoh making this incredibly bold claim to his court, and it ends with the divine judgment on his leadership. It's this whole arc, the declaration and its ultimate consequence, that the Tafsir is trying to unpack for us.
So let's dig into how the source text really dissects the meaning behind Pharaoh's, well, his audacious claim. This is where the analysis starts to get really, really interesting. The central question that the Tafsir wrestles with is this one right here. What did Pharaoh actually mean by that? Was this just a classic political power move, I'm the boss? Or was he claiming something far bigger, absolute, universal divinity? Because the answer to that question changes everything. And here we have the 2 main scholarly paths you can take. The first one sees it as a claim to regional power. Basically, for the people of Egypt, he was the only authority that mattered. But the second interpretation, it sees a much more radical claim, a complete and total denial that a creator exists, period. And it's this second, more extreme interpretation that the source material we're looking at strongly supports. So, yeah, this wasn't just some king trying to keep his people in line. According to this exegesis, Pharaoh was making a profound metaphysical statement. He was basically positioning himself as the ultimate reality, throwing down a direct challenge to the very idea of a universal God. In understanding his claim like that, well, it leads us directly to the heart of his spiritual state. Was Pharaoh just ignorant? Did he just not know any better? Or was something much more deliberate going on here?
The text brings up a really critical theological term here, juhud. Now, this isn't just simple disbelief or a lack of information. Juhud is something else entirely. It's the active, conscious, and arrogant rejection of a truth that you, deep down in your soul, already know is true. It's a sin of defiance, not a sin of ignorance.
And the Tafsir doesn't just make this claim. It backs it up with textual evidence right from the Qur'an. It points to another surah that says Pharaoh and his people rejected the signs from Moses even though their own souls were convinced they were true. Their rejection wasn't about a lack of proof. It was rooted in injustice and pride. This was a conscious rebellion against a known reality.
All right, so now let's explore this really stark contrast that the Quran draws between 2 kinds of leaders, the true guides and those, like Pharaoh, who are called imams of fire.
I mean, look at this. Pharaoh clearly defines his own role. By calling himself the Most High Lord, he's setting himself up as the ultimate guide, the source of all values for his people. He's claiming the position of an imam, a leader who must be followed. And then you get this, the divine reframing of his claim. The Quran actually agrees. Yep, you're an imam, a leader. But it completely flips the script on his destination. He's not a guide to salvation. He's an imam who leads his followers straight into the fire, down a path where they will find absolutely no help. So the huge takeaway here is that leadership is this incredibly powerful tool, right? It can lead to the greatest good or the most profound evil. According to this analysis, a leader's true worth is defined entirely by where they lead their followers. Is it towards divine guidance, or is it towards the fire of damnation? So we've established the nature of the crime, this deliberate rejection of truth and actively misleading people. Now let's get into the consequences, as the Quran details them. What's really fascinating is how the source explains that divine justice works on 2 different timelines. It's not all put on hold for the afterlife. No, it starts right here, in this world, with a curse, a legacy of disgrace, of infamy. And then this worldly consequence culminates on the day of resurrection, where they will find themselves completely and utterly abandoned and despised. So really, the main idea we get from this part of the Tafsir is that consequences are just inescapable. The Quran is presenting a system of justice where oppression has real, tangible repercussions, both in this life and, of course, in the afterlife. Okay, finally, building on this whole idea of ultimate consequences, the Tafsir gets to its most profound and I think its most mind-bending theological point, the very nature of heaven and hell. Now, this is a major shift in how you might think about it. The analysis is suggesting that hell isn't some external prison that you get sent to. Instead, it's the natural, intrinsic results of the evil and the oppression a person creates with their own choices and actions. And this other Qur'anic verse just illustrates the concept so perfectly. The fire of hell is fueled by men and stones, meaning the oppressors themselves and the false idols they worshipped or the corrupt systems they built. They don't just go to hell. Their very being, their actions become its substance. This is such a radical idea, it naturally brings up a huge question about the afterlife's timeline. Is it something that gets built in the future, after Judgment Day happens? And the conclusion this tafsir reaches is just stunning. The afterlife isn't some future event. It's a present reality. According to this view, heaven and hell exist right now, and our actions right here in this world are literally building our final destination in real time. They are providing the very substance of our experience there. This leaves us with an incredibly profound final thought, one that centers on ultimate responsibility. I mean, if our actions don't just lead to our reward or punishment, but actually become the material of it, what does that say about the choices we make every single day, knowing they have a direct, creative, metaphysical consequence in a reality that's already here, waiting for us?